this is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and now we're going to look at the Samsung Galaxy Tab 4. This is Samsung's latest Android 10.1-inch tablet. It's also available in 7-inch and 8-inch sizes. Obviously, we got the 10-inch one here. We're going to look at it now. So this is the Samsung Galaxy Tab 4 10.1. Obviously, the fourth generation of the Samsung Galaxy Tab, and as you probably know if you've been watching our channel, Samsung has two lines of Android tablets. They have the one that's been called the Tab 2, the Tab 3, the Tab 4, and that's the entry to mid-level model, often with, I always felt, slightly disappointing specs for the price. And then there's the high-line tablets like the Note 10.1 2014 edition, and now the Samsung Galaxy Tab and Note Pro tablets. So this guy, $349 for the 10.1-inch model. This is their mid-rangey model, and obviously it starts out at $349 right now for the 16 gig Wi-Fi model. You know how it is with Samsung products. In 6 months, it'll probably be on sale places, all that sort of thing. But that puts it in the mid-range. It's not one of the uber cheap tablets, the $200 tablets by any means. But what's nice is Samsung has really upped the game a bit with the quality of this product in terms of the processor that's inside. The screen's pretty nice, all that. And in fact, even the design, if you take a look at this looks just about exactly like the Samsung Galaxy Tab Pro 10.1, which is the $499 model, though that one lately has been on sale. Best Buy has it for $399 on sale right now as we speak. Of course, that won't be forever. Even Samsung's running a little special for $429, but list price-wise, $150 cheaper for this than the Note or Tab Pro 10.1 and the Note Pro one. So on the back, again, it looks the same. You got this leather look here. It's available in your choice of black or white. That's been another Samsung standard thing for a while. It's that faux leather kind of somewhat grippy back. It's not bad looking. For something that's made of plastic, at least it has some style, so I'm not going to complain about that. 1 pound, 1.28 ounces, so super duper light, making it very competitive with the iPad Air and also, again, with Samsung's Pro line of tablets. So how do you tell the difference between the two? See, here's the camera back here. There is no flash. There's a 3-megapixel camera. Not too impressive as you might guess, given that. And then here we have the Pro model I'll bring in. So here's the Pro model, and it has the flash, has a higher resolution camera as well. And if you take a look at the actual casings on here, you can see that this has the faux leather stitching around the edges, for whatever that matters. And this one just has a kind of wraparound, a simpler effect on it. So slight difference in the casing there. And the white wraps around here, whereas on the Pro model you get the faux brushed aluminum kind of look. So here we have the Pro version right here and the Tab 4. Notice how similar the screens are. That's pretty impressive, right? Now, it might be hard to see on the video camera, but this here is our Pro model, and it has better color saturation. The colors are a bit richer, but this still speaks well for our Tab 4 right here, which has just a 1280 by 800 pixel LCD display. 1280 by 800 pixels is pretty much the resolution that Android 10-inch tablets were when they first came out, thinking all the way back to like the Motorola Zoom, for example. So those of you who aren't kind of tablet snobs are going to say, not at least full HD, oh my god, let alone the 2560 by 1600 that the Tab Pro 10.1 is. Well, it's okay. It's a very colorful, very sharp display. Does that look bad to you? It doesn't look bad to me. It looks like a very nice, high-quality display. So for $349, you're not going to get all the top specs on it, but it's a very pleasing-looking display. And the viewing angles, they're not too bad. It'll shift, as you can see here, but it stays pretty readable. It's certainly not one of those magical disappearing displays. It's usable for if two people are looking at the same thing at once, that sort of thing. So not a bad job there. Also, the CPU inside is something that disappointed us with the old Tab 3, even the Tab 2, is they used some pretty mediocre CPUs. This one goes with the Qualcomm Snapdragon 400. So 1.2 gigahertz quad-core CPU with Adreno 305 graphics. That's a pretty good performer. It's pretty much the same CPU you'll find in a mid-range Android smartphone and, well, a mid-range Android tablet right here. So very compatible, quick to charge, well supported in games, solid offering, better than going with the Intel Atom, which has never been the greatest CPU when paired with Android. Does much better on Windows, honestly. So you get some pretty good performance here without the weirdness, without the lags. We also have Android KitKat 4.4 here with obviously Samsung's TouchWiz UI. You have their usual listing of applications. You can arrange this as you see fit, or you can go with alphabetical as we've done. Your widget picker, all the apps that you've downloaded right there. And as you can see, it's pretty quick. UI right here, also standard Samsung stuff. Quick picker for your wireless radios, you control the brightness, your alert sounds. You want to get to all settings, you go here, and it's the usual updated, shall we say, Samsung interface with the 4 sections that you can control most everything on the tablet. It does have a couple of creature comforts, like the feature where it looks at you and it doesn't turn off the screen if you're watching it. You have the floating video player. You have the press and hold right here. You got the multitasking, which is pretty darn neat to have. So it's got enough horsepower to handle that. So now we've just thrown gallery over here and say we want to have the music player next. We can grab and hold that. And you can do a split just like that. Make it as small or as big as you want. So again, for a budget tablet, you're getting some of the higher end Galaxy features. And speaking of Galaxy features, for those of you who have Samsung Galaxy phones, you really like them, or an older tablet, this is going to feel pretty familiar to you. Just sped up a little bit, cleaned up a little bit. Buttons may be different if you have an older version, because Google wants the button over here to not be a menu button anymore. They want it to be the multitasking button. So this is going to show us everything that's running right here, and you can tap on anything you want to switch to it, or you can swipe it up to get rid of it as well. And we have the normal mechanical clicky home button right here and the back button. Up front here we have a 1.3 megapixel front camera. Yeah, again, the cameras on this are nothing to write home about. The software on this is pretty good though. Samsung gives you their usual well-featured camera application here, and we'll give it something to focus on just a bit. And move it over here. So we have settings over here. Photo size, obviously you can choose. Video is 720p. It's grayed up as you can't change it right here. Metering mode, center, spot, matrix. Control for volume, location, timer, white balance, brightness. You get the idea. Not all the fancy stuff that you're going to see maybe on the top flagship Galaxy products, but still you get all the beauty face, the sound and shot, the night mode, the sports, the panorama. So in terms of software, the camera is actually pretty good. It's just they're not particularly high resolution. Looking around the device, we have stereo speakers, one on each side. That's your speaker grill right here. That's your headphone jack. This does not come with a pen. This is not a Samsung Galaxy Note product. This is a tab, so no pen, no silo. Typical of Samsung products, most everything is up here in this corner. Your power button, your volume controls, micro SD card slot right here, little protective door on it. And it's compatible with SDXC cards, so you can go up to like 64 gigs with that. This is the IR Blaster, and it comes with Samsung Watch On software, so you can use this as your TV remote control and programming guide. We'll show you that too. Other side, well, there's the other speaker hole. And on the bottom, a standard micro USB 2.0 port, no USB 3.0 port like some of the higher end Samsung products, which is, it's fine. Most of us don't spend our days transferring gigs and gigs of data back and forth between our PC and this, so the speeds are perfectly adequate. This does support USB host, which is pretty darn cool. That means with a little USB host dongle adapter, micro USB to USB, you can use flash drives and stuff like that with this. Now, don't expect you can use any USB peripheral. This is not Windows. It doesn't mean you can use your LTE dongle or something like that with it. But when it comes to HID devices, which means keyboards, mice, flash drives, that sort of stuff, then yes. So here we have Samsung's micro USB host adapter cable. It does not have to be a Samsung brand. We just happen to have one. And this is just, a T-Mobile flash drive that they gave us at a press conference. And we'll stick that in here. Flash drive starts blinking. And this is a pretty neat thing that Samsung does too. Usually, it depends on the Android tablet. Sometimes absolutely nothing happens when you plug it in, except for a notification at the bottom that says you plugged in a USB device. Sometimes the file manager will launch. This is more sophisticated. We get an immediate browser of everything that is on our flash drive, and we can filter by category, music and video and so on. So pretty nice, makes life a lot easier for folks who are used to things that work well, sort of like Windows or Macs do, where you stick a drive in there and voila, it opens up. So how about if we switch to something like a 2.5-inch portable hard drive? Let's see what happens. And I don't know if you can hear the sad little beeping, but that's the sound of the drive trying to spin up, but it can't. So this is not passing along enough power over USB to power a portable hard drive like our little Western Digital My Passport hard drive. So flash drives, yes. Portable hard drives, no. If you had an external hard drive that had its own plug-in power, that has a power adapter that plugs into the wall, that should work too. On board, in addition to, obviously Android 4.4 KitKat, Samsung's TouchWiz software, we have the full suite of Google applications. Samsung's usual video player, their own music player, all that kind of thing. And here's a little surprise too. We have Handcom Office. Now what's pre-installed is a Handcom Office viewer, and the first time you run it, it's going to want to update. That's the world of technology these days. Ship it first, push the updates later. But when you do that, you're going to notice, hey, looky, and we're going to launch that updater right now. You can get the full apps too. And right now it's refreshing to see if there's newer versions of those. So if you've watched our Samsung Galaxy Note Pro 12.2 review, our Tab Pro 10.1, you saw that had this really nifty Handcom Office suite that looks a whole lot like MS Office under Windows. So all it is a free download away. You just hit install if it's not already installed, and it's yours. So let's take a look at those. So you see that we've downloaded HCell, which is their Excel compatible application, and HWord, and we'll take a look at that real quick. Again, this is going to be the same stuff that you've seen before on the other higher end Samsung recent tablets. So there it is. Let's check out the UI there. So you've got pretty nice Office experience built in. So I'm really surprised actually that this is on the non-Pro line. Good for that. So obviously we just created a new document right there. You can do so. All the formatting, the control ribbons, printing. If you've got wireless printer that's compatible, you name it. And again, you also get HCell, which is a very capable Excel equivalent counterpart. And there's also a PowerPoint equivalent as well, which isn't quite as super duper impressive as the word processor and the spreadsheet app, but it's still pretty darn good and about the best thing you're going to find on Android right now in terms of Office software. So how about synthetic benchmarks? Again, this is the Snapdragon 400 quad-core 1.2 gigahertz, so pretty competent, 1.5 gigs of RAM, 16 gigs of storage, almost 12 gigs available for your use. You can, of course, augment that with micro SD cards. So we're expecting pretty much mid-range numbers. Right here you can see we have Antutu up, and the score is 17,239. Quadrant was 9,181. To give you an idea, on the Pro model of this, Quadrant was 14,515. So it's certainly a difference there, but how much of a difference does it make to you? It really depends on what you want to use your tablet for, and we'll talk about that some more. For a 3D Mark Ice Storm Unlimited, that's a 3D graphics test, 4,615. And for SunSpider, the JavaScript tests where lower numbers are better, it scored a pretty decent 920. So in terms of horsepower and performance on this tablet, it's mid-range, but you know what the good news is these days, mid-range is pretty darn powerful in terms of what you're getting out of this. It's obviously responsive enough to run the UI. It runs the built-in applications just fine. And even some more challenging tasks, like we have a 2560 by 1440 video that's 2K that we were testing, and it played pretty well. So we're going to test it now in the video player. So there it is, 1440p video playback. A way higher resolution than the built-in display, so the point of that, who knows? But just so you can see what it's capable of doing, it can do that. And by the way, we're streaming that off of Dropbox too, so it's doing this over Wi-Fi. Speaking of Wi-Fi, dual band Wi-Fi 802.11bgn. No AC on this model, that's a Pro model feature, and Bluetooth 4.0, also a GPS with GLONASS built in. Pretty darn cool. Now we're using Samsung's video player, so you can see the floating player. And it's going to take a minute because that's a very high resolution file and it's streaming it at the same time, which is pretty darn neat. But there you have it in Samsung's floating player too. And say we want to just go to the desktop. There it still is. We have not brought the tablet to its knees yet doing this, which is pretty darn neat. Speakers obviously are pretty loud as well. They're about 2/3 volume at the moment, 3/4 volume. So decently loud speakers and not bad quality either. Another feature is Samsung's Watch On. Now we've seen this on some of the Samsung Galaxy higher end phones and tablets before. Works with that IR blaster right up here so you can control your home theater AV gear, and also you get a TV grid for content discovery and based on Peel. So it's pretty impressive. So it's going to say you want to set up your device because we actually have it. So here's some brands. Now what if your brand's not listed? Oh my goodness, it just goes on and on. So chances are any TV that you have is going to be on here. And let's pick that one right there just so you can see what it's like. So then you test the IR codes, turn it on, and if it works, then you tell it, yes, that worked. So you say, okay, And you can do your set-top box and so on. And if it works, you can say, okay, sure enough did. So then you've got the embedded controls over here also for your TV. So that's how that one works. Lastly, let's check out gaming. It may be a mid-range device in terms of horsepower, but it is capable enough to play today's 3D games pretty decently. Probably helps that it's not pushing super high resolution like the 2560 by 1600 resolution on the Tab Pro 10.1, but let's see how it does in real racing free. And the viewpoint changing works pretty well. Notice we're not getting the rear view mirror graphic with something filled in there, so that's something you're missing out on, but not the end of the world. That's what real racing does when it detects something that's mid-range or low range. Now it's behaving pretty well in terms of frame rates right here, and this curve sometimes causes some devices problems. Oh, it's doing just fine though. So it certainly is adequate. For your $349, it is capable of playing today's 3D games pretty nicely. Will it be in 2 years? Well, that's kind of hard to say, but you know, those of you who are really worried about future-proofing, the higher-end devices are always closer to a guarantee, if there is such a thing as a guarantee about that, given how quickly technology improves. The tablet is not getting too hot on the back. It is getting warm, though, right where the camera is. Now let's pause our game so we can talk about that. Right in this area here, you'll feel some warmth. I mean, it's a very thin tablet, 0.31 inches, so we're talking pretty skinny there, almost as skinny as the iPad Air. Inside here, by the way, 6,800 milliamp battery. Obviously, it's sealed inside, so that's a lower capacity battery than the Tab Pro 10.1, which, if I remember correctly, is 8220 milliamp per hour. But Samsung still says it's good for the same 10 hours on a charge as our Pro version device, because the Pro version device is running a faster CPU and a higher resolution display, so it has more demand put on it. Now in our test, I'd say this is more of an 8-hour tablet, depending on what you're doing with it and where your brightness is set at. That's with the brightness set at 50% and not playing real racing the whole time, because that will certainly get you shorter runtimes. But if you're using this for the web, for your email, streaming some YouTube or Netflix videos, that sort of thing, you're good. Obviously, Amazon Prime, not so much, because Amazon doesn't make a Prime client for Android. You could try side-loading Flash Player, which was discontinued more than a year ago, and using that with something like Firefox or Boat Browser, which you can download from Google Play, because the built-in browsers don't support it. You get Chrome on here, by the way, and you get the old WebKit web browser on board with this. And for size comparison and materials comparison, here's the iPad Air, obviously in black, and our Samsung, and given the different aspect ratio of the screen, the size you would think would be pretty different, but somehow the Samsung manages to be pretty squared off, even though it is widescreen and not by 4:3 aspect ratio like the iPad. In terms of the back side, that's where you're going to see a difference too. Metal here, nice classy looking metal design, and we've got the, again, the faux leather kind of plastic back here. Both of these are quite thin. The iPad Air is a teeny bit thinner. They're both very light. They're both just around a pound or so. Now the iPad Air costs more, but you also get that Retina display, and that's a whole nother ball of wax, shall we say. So who's this for? This is for anybody who's looking for a decent quality tablet. You don't want to spend the whole kit and caboodle of money, $500 or more, on a tablet, but you want something that's pretty good quality, a brand you can trust, a good set of features, pretty good performance. You get a nice looking display. Sure, it's not full HD, but it's pretty darn nice looking. You get a decent CPU in here that's good enough for gaming, for streaming video, even as you saw, high quality video. You get your TV remote on here, decent wireless radios. It's for the mid-range buyer. Now for those of you who want LTE 4G, right now this is a Wi-Fi only 16 gig tablet. Will there be an LTE model? You know, probably with Samsung that often happens, but as of right now, no word. So that's the Samsung Galaxy Tab 4, the 4th generation. I call it mid-range, the more affordable tablet in Samsung's lineup. And I honestly like it, as I said, which is refreshing because I haven't been too impressed with the mid-range tabs that they've been offering. Pretty decent CPU inside, pleasing display. You got a micro SD card slot, you got your Wi-Fi, your Bluetooth, you got your GPS. And, you know, in Samsung's own way, we have this kind of leather back that's not too bad looking. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to visit our website for the full review, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.